Yes, guys, I'm just a few blocks away from where that deadly shooting happened at Covenant School. And just to give you some perspective, we've seen some unmarked police cars zooming by here for the past hour and a half that we've been here at this media staging area. But as we mentioned, about an hour ago, we did receive some confirmation from Metro Police, and I'll read through what we know so far. We know that there are 6 victims from this Covenant School shooting, 3 children, 3 adults, and the 28-year-old female shooter is also dead. And that is why Metro Police believe there is no threat to the public safety right now. Again, that comes directly from Metro Police. Now, they say the female shooter had at least 2 assault rifles and a handgun. Right now, police believe there are no other victims or injuries to report right now other than those 6 victims that have passed away. And I spoke with a neighbor who lives just down the block from where the shooting happened, and he describes that heartbreaking scene that he saw from parents who were just trying to get their children.
Just seeing the parents over there and coming up and breaking down, it was a lot. So you just don't think this happens in your area. And I just feel so badly for those people that were injured, and I just really hope that I'm thankful that the situation's under control, but just really heartbreaking situation, and I hate that this happened in our town.
Now, again, just to read through what police are telling us right now, there are 6 victims who are pronounced dead, 3 children, 3 adults. The female shooter, who police tell us is 28 years old, is also dead. And that is why we believe there is no threat to public safety right now. Again, Metro Police say the female shooter had at least 2 assault type rifles and a handgun, but police believe there are no other injuries or anyone else hurt right now. Again, there is a reunification center at 2100 Woodmont Boulevard in Green Hills. We have one of our reporters there right now. But again, for families at Covenant Christian School, the reunification center is 2100 at Woodmont Boulevard. We are waiting for more updates from Metro Police, and we'll be sure to keep you updated with any information that we do know. Again, we are expecting Chief John Drake of Metro Police Department to be on the scene shortly. Again, we will keep you updated as this is a very active and early investigation. Reporting live for Fox 17 News, I'm Amanda Chin, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Amanda, thank you. Just sat down. Megan got up. I appreciate your coverage all day long. We were just talking off camera. And something as I've been watching and listening to all the things that have been happening, more than the nuts and bolts, is now you start to speculate. Who was this woman, this 28-year-old woman that came into the school? What is her connection, if any, to the school? And we were talking about the other schools in the area that were on lockdown, and just discussing that, of course, initially you wondering, is this part of a larger effort? And you mentioned the other private schools in town being, you know, maybe probably going on lockdown, locking their doors, increasing security, wondering, because you don't know early on. Right.
Well, and I will say this, we were just asking about that, so I sent out a quick question to our assignment desk, and we are getting response that Hillsborough High School, Julia Green, and Percy Priest Elementary, which are all in the vicinity of Covenant School, those will remain on lockout until police clear that area. Now, they have said they don't think there is any threat to the general public.
Of course, this school didn't think there was any threat this morning until some stranger. Well, we don't know if it's a stranger. That's what we don't know, because it's such, you know, if you don't know about Covenant Christian School, you don't know about Covenant Christian School. There's a number of private Christian schools in that neck of the woods, but it's not on the main drag. So it's not like, oh yes, I drive past that all the time. No, you don't. It's not on the main drag. It's not on, you know, right on, you know, the boulevard near the mall and all that. But there are others on there. So you wonder, who was this woman? What is her connection? How does she know about the school? And private schools, your husband, you know, works at a private school. My wife used to work at that same private school. And I know from, you know, years ago when my wife was there, those schools are very much families.
Oh, yes.
And they're a lot of times connected to a church, and that's, you know, a lot of, you know, we go to church together, our kids go to school here, some of the teachers, you know, are also members of the church, so chances are these are very close-knit families who all know each other.
It is a tight-knit community, and to your point of trying to figure out the whys, right? We've learned according to Don Aaron with Metro PD, that there are video cameras in and around that school. So they are already going through the process of pulling every piece of video and photographic evidence that they can find to find out the who and the why. And we promise you that we are on top of that as well.
Sure.
And just as soon as we get those updates from police, we will be bringing them to you. We do know for sure a 28-year-old Nashville woman is who they say is responsible.
And she is now dead. Let's go back live to Fox 17 News' Caitlin Miller, who is at Vanderbilt University Medical Center where the victims were taken. It was Vanderbilt University Medical Center that let us know initially about some of those deaths. Caitlin, have you learned anything new?
We haven't learned anything new. All we learned as of now is what Metro Police were saying, which 3 children, 3 adults, and the school shooter were pronounced dead. We are outside waiting to hear more from officials, updates on these patients, because we were told that most of them were transported right here to the emergency room at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. I'll step aside so you can see what we're seeing right outside the emergency room. As you can see, there's not much going on right now, but there have been a few Metro Police cars staged outside here all morning. And earlier this morning, unfortunately, we did see quite a few ambulances. The sirens kept going on and off, and I just can't imagine being that parent or that family member getting that call this morning to have to head to the emergency room to see the status of their child or a loved one. So my thoughts and prayers really go out to them. And again, we are reaching out to officials here at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center to get an update on these patients. Reporting live outside of Vanderbilt, I'm Caitlin Miller, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Caitlin, thank you. And as you guys have mentioned earlier in our coverage, the Reunification Center, 2100 Woodmont, which is at Woodmont Baptist Church,
right.
One of the largest churches in our city. And hopefully by now, all those parents have, gotten the news and been reconnected with their families. I sure hope so.
Yeah, you know, we've had our live reporters in that area. We've had Jackie Del Bilar and Amanda Chin, and it did at least appear from their vantage point that most of the families have now picked up their children and filtered out. What we're seeing now at those locations are the first responders and the investigators who are still very active.
And we know that a police officer was injured. Presumably the police officer, because now, you know, they all have marching orders. We don't wait when there's a school shooting down, trying to figure out what to do. And those were the marching orders before the horrible, you know, tragedy at Uvalde, Texas. But you move in, you immediately try to engage. And apparently that worked in terms of neutralizing the threat. But a police officer was injured in the process, and we're waiting for news to find out how that officer is now, too.
Right. And when we heard from Don Aaron with Metro PD last, I'd say within about the last 30, 45 minutes, he did say that they would effort another update for us very quickly, so we're waiting on that. But in the meantime, we do have Fox 17 News' Erica Glover. She's here with us in studio, and she's been combing through some of the comments and updates on social media. What have you seen in the last few minutes?
Well, Scott and Jennifer, there are so many comments, so many videos and emotions that are being shared on social media. A lot of folks who live nearby in that area who were sharing what they heard, what they sound, or what it sounded like when you heard kids that were yelling, when you heard cops that were just driving down this street, things that folks in that area simply do not hear, right? At any point. So I am keeping a close eye on social media. I know that we shared the tweet right behind me here from Governor Bill Lee that came in at 11:59 this Monday morning, and he was talking about how they were going to continue responding and how they were joining together and praying for the school, the congregation, and the Nashville community. I'm also going to read this tweet that is coming to our newsroom from Nashville Mayor John Cooper, and I'm quoting here: "In a tragic morning, Nashville joined the dreaded long list of communities to experience a school shooting. My heart goes out to the families of the victims. Our entire city stands with you. And as facts continue to emerge, I thank our first responders and medical professionals." Now, we also have our Fox 17 News reporters who are out there who are sharing their photos, their videos, and showing how the parents are being reunited, how you have parents who are out there, rightfully so, in tears. I know that this morning I was in an area where I was with a woman whose neighbor works at that school, whose neighbor has 2 children who are also at that school. And of course, she was choked up and asking me questions. And right now, so many people don't have the answers that they're looking for. And that's what we're trying to get some more information for. So we're going to continue going through social media and giving you those updates. And you can always go to our Fox Nashville Twitter, Facebook, Instagram accounts to get some of those updates as you continue looking on your phone and scrolling through social media accounts.
Erica, thank you. You know, you were talking about that mom who was in that dreaded in-between, right?
Where you don't know and you're wondering, is this my child?
You just, like, you know something has happened. All you want to know is that your child is okay, and you're in that awful in-between, that waiting period. And I mean, you've got kids.
I've got a 14-year-old that's in a middle school right now, not unlike this school. It's not a private Christian school, but you drop them off. There's good folks there that you know and go to church with, and you trust they're safe.
Right.
But you're not safe anywhere. And you know, this conversation is all coming at a time when schools around the country are putting armed, uniformed officers in elementary schools, not just middle schools and high schools now. However, Metro says, you know, no, we think that's the wrong idea, the wrong thing to do, sends the wrong message. This is a private school, you know, a lot fewer kids, certainly fewer resources. I suspect the Metro conversation will change after this. We talked about Adrienne Battle, the school's director. She's been, you know, diametrically opposed to doing this. I have a feeling after this, the school board will feel differently.
Well, there's no question that as we speak right now, there are schools all across Middle Tennessee that are gathered probably in the conference room of their school, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, and they're all coming together saying,
what are we doing? Is it enough?
What are we doing, and do we need to do more? And it doesn't matter whether you're public school, private school, church-based school. I mean, these are the concerns of every parent, every staff member, every administrator who ultimately does feel that responsibility for keeping children safe. And at the end of the day, as parents, you know, you feel somewhat helpless, right? Like you get your kids ready in the morning and you send them off.
They're out of your care and control. And you assume, hope, pray they're going to be okay until you get them back.
So, you know, and we know, to Erica's point, that you have so many questions as we do.
As do we, yeah.
You know, and so we're working to get those answered from Metro PD. They told us that this shooter came in through a side door. What do we know about that? Was able to go through the first floor.
So many schools are locked now, and you know, even as parents, you got to go to the front door, you got to push the button, you got to talk to them, let them see you, engage. However, we don't know that they have the same level of security at this place, and you know, we don't know what level of access this person may have had. Is this person an insider? We don't know.
Sure, and hopefully the video that exists from in and around that school that Metro Police has said does exist, hopefully that video will give us some of those answers. Yeah.
Right now, let's go back out live to Fox 17 News' Jackie Del Pilar, who is at 2100 Woodmont Boulevard, which is Woodmont Baptist Church, that reunification center we've been talking about. Jackie, we still see there's obviously still a police presence there. Is it your sense that all the kids have been collected? What do you know?
Yeah, Scott, just in the past, I'd say 15, 20 minutes, we've seen more and more families leaving the church. Initially, this church here was established as the reunification center, a safe place for families to come and reunite with their children who were at the school. Now that a couple of hours have gone by, I think they've been able to reconnect in the church, and they've been able to gather, pray, love on each other. And now we're starting to see families leave, and I'm assuming to head home and do the same thing in the privacy of their own home. You might be able to see here, we've seen folks walking in and out. These are the main doors of the church. We've seen families coming out, arms wrapped around each other as they walk down the steps and find their cars and head home. About 15 minutes ago, we saw a girl, probably about 12, 13 years old, come down the steps, and she was in her school uniform, and she got to the bottom of the steps and she just stood there. She had her arms crossed and her head down, and you can tell that she was just trying to process what was going on. Just extremely emotional time here. I can't imagine what these families are going through. You can see here there's still a lot of cars in the parking lot, which leads me to believe there are still hundreds of families or hundreds of people inside this church gathering together. You know, in tragic times like this, the best thing we can do as humans is get together and love on each other and share our support, and that is exactly what is going on inside this church here. I've seen folks out here outside hugging each other and crying together, grieving together, and then they're leaving and, like I said, coming in their cars and headed home. We were in the parking lot earlier, and the lead pastor came out and spoke with us briefly. He said that these families are grieving. He said that they were upset to see us here. Obviously, I completely understand that, and so we scooted off across the street just to give them a little space, but we are still here to bring you updates because this is of vital importance to our community right now. I've seen children of all ages. I saw a family come out with a father carrying what looked like a toddler who I assume is a sibling. So we know this is impacting not only the children who were at the school today, but their families, their loved ones, who all are grieving together and just trying to process this complete tragedy that we experienced today. And this is a big church. There's a lot of doors. We've seen people streaming in and out from all different angles. We see there's police on the entire perimeter of the property at every entrance. So they are welcoming families on the way in, making sure they know where they need to go and what they need to do. The fire department is staged here as well in case anyone needs any medical attention. As far as I can tell, there's not been any medical emergencies here, but they are here on standby. We know it's a stressful time and you just never know what can happen. There's cases of water bottles out here if people need them. And throughout the day, we've seen police streaming up and down the road with their sirens on because it just still is just such an active situation here. But like I said, Scott, there are families starting to leave. I think they've been able to kind of gather here, collect their belongings, get their bearings, and now they're headed home to try to grieve together and unwind in privacy. So we're going to try to talk to some of the families if anyone is willing to talk to us on their way out. Otherwise, we're going to give folks space and give them what they need as they process this difficult time. But we will be staying out here to keep you guys updated throughout the day. Reporting live, I'm Jackie Del Pilar with Fox 17 News, your Code station.
Jackie, thank you. We're continuing to, get the notes from folks that we know and texts and what have you. They're just sort of learning the situation. There may be people at home that are getting bits and pieces of this. Why don't we take it from the top and tell everybody the timeline of what's happened?
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to set the scene for you, kind of take a breath and reestablish what we know so far. If you are just now joining us, Jen Waddell, Scott Couch, we've come together for this special edition of Breaking News. Right around 10:15 this morning, got reports of shots fired at the Covenant School in the Green Hills neighborhood of Nashville.
That's right, the Burton Hills area over there just past the mall if you're headed, out of town toward Williamson County on Hillsborough Road. We learned that 3 children were killed and 3 adults, and for a time we were told that the shooter was down, the shooter was dead. This is a map of the area kind of giving you an indication of where everything is. You see 440 at the top of your screen. Well, headed down Hillsborough Road, which is, right through the Green Hills, where it says the mall in Green Hills, the road, runs right through there. And then you see the relationship between these schools, Woodmont Boulevard, right there at the intersection of Hillsborough Road and Woodmont Boulevard is where the Jackie just was. And it's about a mile and a half down where the school is, but it's not exactly on the main road. You've got to, go, up Harding Place a little bit, or actually right before you get to Harding Place, you've got to turn off into the Burton Hills, neck of the woods to get into Covenant School. But they were saying it looks like it was a teenager, a female, and often these are males. But
that was what police said.
I know, but it didn't turn out to be a teenager.
Correct. A 28-year-old woman from Nashville who police shot and killed. Police confirmed that she came into the school with 2 assault-style rifles and a handgun. Teams swarmed the school and, as they put it, neutralized the situation. They shot and killed that 28-year-old woman. We're working to find out who she is, what, if any, connection she had to the Covenant School, and why on earth she would have done this. Now, the Covenant School, to give you a little bit of perspective, is a small church-based school. I pulled
pre-K through 6.
That's right. I pulled up their website when I first came in because I was curious. They've got children as little as 4 for their pre-K program, all the way up through 6th grade. So think 11, 12, maybe 13-year-old students.
Would be the top end, those kids that are in 6th grade, before they're ready to move on to the middle school.
Metro Police told us that approximately 209 students go to school there through
Very
all
small.
the grades, very
Very
small,
small.
and approximately 42 staff members working there.
Yeah, my child goes to a public school in Sumner County. There are 200, let's see, he's in the 8th grade. There are 200 kids in the 8th grade wing. So and that's the number of kids, you know, for this school all the way from pre-K all the way through 6.
So setting the scene, and I want you to watch and listen with us because this is video just into the Fox 17 newsroom.
That's just off of 440. In fact, where people are, in fact, Megan used to live off that road that is on right now. Well, the name of the road escapes me. I think it's Skyline, or not, I mean, Golf Club Lane on the other side. Maybe it's Golf Club Lane on that side. Well, but I've been right there where you're trying to get to the mall, getting off. That's where you come off and head toward the mall.
Oh, yeah. And
it's a Scientist Church.
What you can hear are all of those sirens.
Like that friend of yours who said there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yes. I mean, they were just counting them as they kept going by. So as we watch and
you know it's bad. When you see something, I don't know what happened, I know it's bad.
Right. So as we go back to the school and we work to kind of set this for you so that you understand what has happened, we learned from police that after the initial calls came in, police rushed along with fire and other crews into the school. They did learn very quickly that that woman came in through a side door. We're working to find out whether that door was secured.
Made it up to the 2nd floor somehow, so we know there's multiple floors. Probably the classrooms are Sunday school rooms. That's what a lot of church, small church schools do, where they have Sunday school on Sunday, their classrooms during the week, and somehow there's multiple floors. She gets in and makes her way up and kills 6 people, unfortunately, before she is herself killed.
You know, we think about the impact here to our community. I mean, we can tell you, the bullet points and the facts and what police know so far or what they don't know. But at the end of the day, folks, we have a community here in Nashville who is hurting, who will never be the same.
No.
We have little kids.
It's happened all those other places. Now it's happened here.
We have little kids who are never going to go to school the same way again or see it the same way. And you think about...
I pray some of them are young enough to be not understanding good.
But that, you think about, the talks that they're going to have and
why, Mommy? Why, Dad?
And just our
hearts. Am I safe? Am I okay?
Yeah, our hearts go out to all of those families who are going to have the unimaginable conversations and then the difficult conversations as we work through this as a community. Let's
go back now live. We've got our entire team working on this in various ways. Fox 17 News, Amanda Chen is live. And Amanda, it looks like you're live right there on sort of Hillsborough Boulevard, just off of there, headed toward the school.
Yes, Scott, that's exactly where I am. I'm just a few blocks away from Covenant School, and I want to give you some perspective of what's been happening behind me for the past few hours now. We've seen the TBI, we've seen Metro Police, we've seen unmarked police vehicles zooming by this area, just keeping track and trying to investigate everything that's going on. Now, I've also seen some families, not from Covenant School, but there's a school right behind me here, St. Paul Christian Academy. I've seen several families come up and get their children. Now, they have told me that they have been on lockout, which means that they don't want people coming in and out of the school. And one mother told me they wanted teachers to kind of do what they would normally do during the school day, and they didn't necessarily want parents coming up to get their kids, but some of them have been. And I spoke with a mother who did not wish to go on camera. She was with her 2 young boys, and she said, it was so hard for me not to come here and get my kids, but I wanted to respect what the teacher was telling me to do. She had her 2 young boys in her arms and said, I just want to get them to safety right now. Again, I'm talking about the school here, St. Paul. This is not Covenant Church. This is a school where several families have been coming to get their kids. And I also want to give you some sound and a person that we spoke with earlier who lives just behind me right here. Curran, if you want to move your camera to show this apartment building right here. I spoke with one neighbor who lives there who heard law enforcement and described that heartbreaking scene of parents.
Just seeing the parents over there and coming up and breaking down, it was a lot. So you just don't think this happens in your area. And I just feel so badly for those people that were injured, and I just really hope that I'm thankful that the situation's under control, but just really heartbreaking situation, and I hate that this happened in our town.
as you can see, an emotional day for everyone, even those who didn't necessarily hear anything, but they heard those sirens. They live here. That man has been living here for 5.5 years, and he is just heartbroken, and something that he will never forget, hearing and seeing those parents running up the hill, just trying to get their children. And just a few minutes ago, we actually saw another family coming up. They were running up the hill. It seems like they were going to St. Paul's School, again, just trying to reunify with their children. But we'll keep you updated with any new information that we have. But for now, reporting live from Nashville, I'm Amanda Chin, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
All right, Amanda, thank you. Jen and I have just been talking about some of the images that are coming into our email. Viewer pics, people, these images that we're looking at and talking about, you can see the Green Hills Mall in the background, and children, groups of them, are actually making their way across busy Hillsborough Road, and sometimes to the open arms of parents. And these are children who are fleeing that situation. And I can see one hugging there. I don't know if that's their baby or not, but you know, you'd hug any of them.
And we're looking at them behind the scenes. What we want to be sure of is that we're careful.
That's one of them right there.
Yeah, we're careful in how we show these. I think we're good to show this one, but you know, we have to understand too that this is still a very delicate situation with parents who are still trying to figure out what has happened with their children, and so we do want to be sensitive to that for sure. But yes, it's you know, this is the kind of thing that even if you don't have children, even if you don't have children in school, that just
going to hit you the same way if you ever had a child, or if you knew a child had a neighbor. I mean, it's just it is an attack. It is an affront on all of us. And you know, we've seen it happen in other areas. We're in the news business. We report on it. In fact, there was just one, you know, quite frankly, it was in Denver last week.
Right.
And there was a reporter, Alicia Acuna, who's a CNN reporter, live reporter, and she's on the scene reporting. And we've been there. Thank God I haven't had that exact experience where that's my child's school, and her son ran out to her, and she essentially said to the anchors, give me just a minute, that's my baby, and I need a minute. What are you learning?
Sure. Well, you know, I was just thinking back, I told Scott, you know, gosh, so feeling, you know, thankful that we haven't had to talk about this kind of a breaking news story here in Nashville, but I was thinking back to when we covered the Marshall County, Kentucky high school shooting.
That's right, Land Between the Lake area, and a student shot other students. We
had 2 students killed in that shooting, and just to kind of reset for you here, we have 3 children and 3 staffers who are confirmed dead in the shooting at the Covenant School this morning, plus the 28-year-old woman who police say was responsible for it all. Now, we just got word from Metro Nashville Police that they're going to give us an update in about 10 minutes.
That's right, about 1:45. And one of the things we're hoping to learn, we want to know whatever we can learn about this woman. Who are you? Where are you from? What is your connection to this school, if any? Why in the world might you have done this? And you assume if they know who she is, they've looked at her social media, because sometimes people put a little manifesto on there, like here's what my big gripe is, or they learn that this person could be a disgruntled former employee, or maybe it is a custodial situation where mental health issues are at play. Parents have been separated. One's got the child in the school. I mean, everything goes through your mind. Yeah. We do know that after the horrible school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, where authorities essentially hung outside and didn't engage for about an hour, Metro Police Chief John Drake said, I just want you folks to understand, if something like that ever happens here, we are going in. And that's exactly what happened here. The officer arrived, went in, engaged, and neutralized this threat.
We do expect to hear from Chief Drake throughout the course of the day. We've already heard from a spokesperson with Metro PD, and we've heard from Nashville Fire, who, by the way, Nashville Fire Department was right there when the calls went out. They sent in their crews. So I'm sure what we will learn in the days to come is, who went in first, right?
Courageous.
How did the fire department assist in that? We do know that the Nashville Fire Department deployed what they call a rescue task force response. So in addition to specially trained folks for situations such as this, they all train, and probably together. They do. I've got a part of the job, you've got a part of the job, and we're going to act like, a hand in a glove. Well, and what they were saying too, it's not just responding in the moment to that immediate threat in that immediate situation, but local federal agents. What happened after the fact? Right. So coordinating the staffers, the children, the people who survived but who witnessed it, and and working through that whole process. I mean, there's so many facets to how our local leaders should be responding in these scenarios. And yes, we will learn more about how they did it in the hours and days to come.
And eager to. I understand we have a recorded comment related to what has happened. Let's listen in on that.
Okay.
All right, that'll be coming up shortly. Obviously, it's a fluid situation, but we have, they talk to us through our earpieces, and they tell us now that piece of sound is ready. Let's listen in.
We're seeing the heartbreaking news of another shooting of innocent school children, this time in Nashville, Tennessee. The president has been briefed on the situation, and our team is in contact with DOJ and local officials about what is known so far. We want to express the president's appreciation for the first responders and prayers for all the families affected by this shooting. While we don't know yet all the details in this latest tragic shooting, we know that too often our schools and communities are being devastated by gun violence. Schools should be safe spaces for our kids to grow and learn, and for our educators to teach. As you all know, President Biden has taken more action than any president in history on gun safety, from nearly two dozen actions, including the executive order he just signed last month, or this month, pardon me, to the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act legislation he signed into law after the tragedies in Uvalde and Buffalo. He also believes it's not enough. We must do more. And he wants Congress to act, because enough is enough.
Yes. All right. Again, that's the latest coming from the White House. We've heard from Tennessee Governor Bill Lee. We've heard from Nashville Mayor John Cooper, and now the White House with that response, and many other private groups that are putting their thoughts, especially on social media.
Just reading a note here from Congressman Mark Green. He says, Cammie, that's his wife, and I join Tennesseans in prayer for the Covenant School community. Goes on to say our hearts are heavy with this senseless loss of life. So we know that all of our members of Congress, it's made it all the way to the White House already, and that's the world we live in today. Within a couple of minutes, no matter where it happens in the world, we're all clued in.
They're all aware. By the way, it's 1:41 right now, Nashville time. The first calls about the shots that were heard in that area of Green Hills came out right around 10:15 this morning. So we're hours into this, but still working to get the newest, most updated information for you. And as such, we have our team coverage that continues right now with Fox 17 News' Kelly Avellino. She's just outside of the gates of the Covenant School. Kelly, tell us what you've been able to learn in the last little bit.
Hang on. Who am I talking to here?
Well, the police presence here has really not thinned out over the last few hours. If you could see behind us, heavily guarded in front of the Covenant Elementary School here. It is a pre-K through 6th grade school. I spoke to one neighbor who lives right across from the building, and she says that about 5 shots rang out very quickly, consecutively, at about 10:15 this morning. She says police responded within moments. There's a fire department very close to the school as well. She says she then saw first responders swarming the top of the parking lot here at the Covenant Church and elementary school. At that point, she heard more scattered gunfire. We now know 3 children have lost their lives, as well as 3 adults in that school. The shooter, according to Metro Nashville Police, a 28-year-old female from Nashville, she made it inside the school to the 2nd floor with 2 assault rifles and a handgun, we're told. Ultimately, she encountered Metro Nashville Police, and they did take her out, stopping any more victims from getting shot in this mass shooting here. We saw armored vehicles, ambulances, many different types of first responder vehicles. We know ATF is here, as well as TBI, and of course Metro Nashville Police, as they continue to wrap up their investigation. This will be ongoing throughout the rest of the day and several days to come, as we know, into any possible motivation here. Just absolutely devastating. Many people tweeting out, lending their support right now to this community. It is the Green Hills community, a very suburban neighborhood feel here, not where anyone would ever expect something like this to happen, as cliche as that sounds. If you take a look down the road here, this is Harding Place. You could see those first responder vehicles still with their lights flashing, very much still an active scene here. Parents were reunited with their students or their children a few blocks away at a staging point, and we are waiting on Metro Nashville Police for more information. They're going to have a presser momentarily, so as soon as we hear from them, we will bring you to that live as well. And again, I did speak to a couple school employees who are now outside the school waiting for their family member to exit the school as well. It's a family that works at the Covenant Elementary School together, and they were very unnerved and just tell me that it was a moment of disbelief when they heard the gunshots as they were preparing lunches for the kids. So just moments of shock right now, and a community attempting to grasp what is happening here. I'll send it back into the studio.
Kelly, thank you. You know, one of the many things that you hope to learn when something like this happens, we learned that there were 2 assault-style rifles. Doesn't necessarily mean they were automatic weapons, as well as a handgun. You're thinking, okay, were they assault weapons? Was it an assault-style weapon? What kind of capacity in terms of bullets did you have? Because that's how many people could have been killed. How many, you know, how many bullets did you have?
You'll have to forgive me for just a second here.
What's going on?
No, we're fine. We just found out that a friend of a friend's daughter was lost today. And so just, you know, at the end of the day, these are families and these are children and they're shattered. And how do you explain, right, to your family members, to your friends, to your church congregation, to your children, to other students, to teachers that, you know, that you pull yourself back together and move forward after something like this? And we don't have the words, right? I mean, we just
some of the questions. Don't
have the words for what so many people are going through right now. But just want you to know that as parents or soon to be parents and people, you know, who have those same connections, we are just going to lift you up in prayer and do what we can to be there for our community. I mean, we're all a part of this community. Scott, you've been here for decades. I mean, you know so many people who have, you know, lived through trials and tribulations, and you've shared their stories. And
it's horrible that some of the connections you make. Why are we friends? We met in tragedy. We met because your daughter was tragically murdered, or we met because your brother was murdered, and we've been friends for the better part of 30 years, but we were connected by tragedy.
Just know that when we're up here and we're telling you about all the facts and the figures and the updates and the news conferences, that this hits us too, because we are part of your communities and we're part of your families and friend groups, and we're just, you know, saying
it's a small world.
Special
you
prayers for
talk
all of
about
you.
Degrees of separation,
Yes.
kind of the Kevin Bacon game. Well, not very many degrees. 2.
Yes. Yes.
Someone I know, knows a family who lost a child, and
Wow.
it is heartbreaking. And these are tiny little people too. Tiny little people that were in this school, a school of 200, not a gigantic school, not 2,000, the biggest school in the state, 200. And that's the sort of thing where everybody knows everybody else. And so it's intensely personal.
We are working to share stories with you and give you insight and connections to what has happened today. And Fox 17 News' Erica Glover is helping us do that. And we're going to send it over to her now. She's been hearing more through some of the social media accounts.
Well, Jen and Scott, any minute now we're going to get another update from Metro Police, but I do want folks who are watching, who are joining us for continuous coverage, to know that if you want some information, maybe you missed the news conference from earlier this morning, you can go to fox17.com. You can watch that news conference from Metro Police in full until we get ready for the next one, and of course we're going to take that live. I'm also going through social media to see the reaction from not only our state leaders like Governor Bill Lee, but also our local leaders. And I want to share this tweet from Mayor John Cooper. In a tragic morning, Nashville joined the dreaded long list of communities to experience a school shooting. My heart goes out to the families of the victims. Our entire city stands with you. As facts continue to emerge, I thank our first responders and our medical professionals. So you have that tweet coming to our newsroom. But also I want to share some of the replies that we're seeing from folks who are, of course, sounding off, letting us know how they think about this situation. And someone else saying here, don't just accept that this happened, do something to prevent this from ever happening again. Another person responding here, please stop this needless access to assault weapons. And we're also, I know that Jen and Scott, they shared a photo, a really gut-wrenching photo is how I describe it, of parents who were running across the street near the school who were being reunited. And you had some students who were just trying to run as fast as they could. That's what it looked like when they were crossing over that street. So those photos are coming into our newsroom. And I know that I tweeted some of them out. You can also go to fox17.com again to see not only the news conference from Metro Police, but also to see those photos that are coming to our newsroom. It's just really heartbreaking to see, and I really can't describe it any other way.
Erica, thank you. Well, we told you moments ago that we had been apprised by Metro Police that they were going to have a briefing, and it's underway now. Let's listen in. This is Metro Police spokesman Don Aaron behind the mic right now.
David Roush, Nashville District Attorney Glenn Funk, and then Nashville Fire Director Chief William Swan. Again, this is the second briefing. There will be other briefings to be held here in the same spot later this afternoon. We'll continue to brief throughout the rest of the day. Chief Drake.
First and foremost, I want to say thank you all for being here on this very unfortunate situation. My heart and prayers go out to the families of the 6 people who were tragically injured. What I know at this point is at 10:13 today, officers responded to a shots fired call to Covenant School. It's a church school. Officers immediately responded. A team of 5 immediately went in the school, went to where gunshots were being heard, and engaged the suspect. We have identified the suspect right now, tentatively a 28-year-old female white. We know the address of that person as well, and so we have some ongoing investigations as to that. We have 3 adult victims, and we have 3 children who have been identified and their families have been contacted. Right now, I will refrain from saying the ages, other than to say I was literally moved to tears to see this and the kids as they were being ushered out of the building. I want to say thanks to all of our partners, to the FBI, to the ATF, and other federal partners, to the THP, Tennessee Highway Patrol, the TBI, the District Attorney, and to the Fire Department, who all came together and seamlessly addressed this situation as quickly as possible. I've already gotten requests from the national media about a great response. We're still assessing that as well. But what I can say, and what I've said before, is that whenever I hope that we would never have this situation, that if we ever did, we would not wait. We would immediately go in and we would immediately engage the person perpetrating this horrible crime. And so that's all I can say. Right now we have David Roush, director of the TBI, who will come after me to address his portion, and then we have others that will say something as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Again, I want to echo what Chief has said in reference to the great support and the great teamwork that has been taking place here, and as well as sending our heartfelt prayers to the families, to this community of these victims. Now, I know there'll be people who want to criticize us for prayers, but that's the way we do that in the South, right? We believe in prayer, and we believe in the power of prayer, and so our prayers go out to these families. The role of the TBI in this investigation is we have been asked by General Funk to assist in the officer-involved portion of this incident. So the incident where the officers engaged the suspect, we are assisting the Metro investigation. And the reason we've got Metro doing the primary investigation is because it was a fluid scene. So there wasn't a single stop in the action. And so as they investigate the homicides, then we felt it was most appropriate for them to continue that investigation. But we will assist as in our role as an independent oversight on the officer-involved situation. And so that will be the role of TBI. We too want to thank all of our partners. It is special. We've had this conversation, unfortunately, too many times in Tennessee, and that is that you wish you wouldn't have to do these types of scenes, but when you do, you want to have the working relationships that we have in our law enforcement community here in Tennessee. It is amazing, and we've all come together as one and working very tirelessly, and we'll continue to work together to address this situation. It's a horrible, senseless tragedy, and we will be here working with our partners to get through it. And next, I'd like to introduce the District Attorney General for this area, Glenn Funk.
This is the ultimate crime when school children and caregivers are the victims of senseless gun violence. Can't say anything before we first express our concerns for the victims and their families and the extended number of victims that are traumatized by today's events. I came out on the scene today because our current operating procedure is that when an officer is involved in a shooting, that the TBI comes out, and I knew that this was a unique case, and I want to make sure that everything was handled appropriately. Director Roush was out here almost at the exact same time I got here, and Chief Drake had already been on the scene for a while. The three of us met and talked about how the investigation was going to be handled. We made a joint decision affirming what the two law enforcement leaders, how they wanted to proceed, which was that Metro was going to handle the bulk of this, but the TBI would participate in a capacity to continue with making sure that we have transparency in everything, and to make sure that any backup that MNPD needs in this continued investigation would be provided. Can't not stress enough how seamlessly that worked to have a conversation, a decision to be made quickly and appropriately as far as how the case was going to be handled from here. Hats off to Chief Drake and to Director Roush. I also want to thank Chief Swan and our federal partners as well. While I cannot comment about the ongoing nature of the investigation, I'm really impressed with the work that's being done by law enforcement.
Yes, good afternoon. First, let me just say, as everyone else, what a tragic day here in Nashville. So our hearts and our prayers do go out to all the family members, and also the first responders that actually made this call. As always, the fire department and the Office of Emergency Management, our job is to support, and we were here at the beginning and we'll be here to the end. We just ask that everyone, again, as it was said earlier about prayer, we ask for that. And the ongoing support that's needed from our standpoint is to give support in any area that's asked for on the scene. So again, we thank you, and from this point forward, we'll just continue on with our mission and try to bring some type of closure and resolution. Thank you.
I anticipate there will be another briefing at or before 4 o'clock. We will entertain 2 or 3 questions at this moment before these gentlemen have to go back to the scene to continue their work.
Chief, you identified, did you identify the shooter in this case yet?
Yes, we have identified the suspect. It's a 28-year-old female white, actually a Nashvilleian, or lives in the Nashville area. We are having an ongoing investigation as it pertains to her at this time.
Located her place of where she lived? You have officers there?
We have.
Was she wearing body armor?
Was she wearing body armor? I can't say that far into the investigation. I don't remember seeing it, but I can't say for certain if she had body armor on or not.
Did she have any connection to the church?
From my initial findings is that at one point she was a student at that school, but unsure what year, all of that, but that's what I've been told so far.
Did she give any word on social media, or has her social media been examined at this point?
The investigations are still going on at this point. Our federal partners, our state partners, we're all looking into that to see exactly. This is still fluid at the time, but we're looking at everything.
Did anybody pull the fire alarm? Do we know?
Don't remember a fire alarm going out. I was told there were kids that evacuated into a wood line, had the presence of mind to do that, and to go to a fire hall. Once we arrived on scene, we had everyone moved to First Baptist Church, Woodmont, and that way we could get parents and children reunited, and then ultimately make the notification on the 3 kids.
Do we know yet if the side door she entered in was locked or not?
There was a door that was entered. All doors were locked to our understanding, and how exactly she got in at this point is still under investigation. There is a vehicle that was nearby that gave us clues as into who she was, and but as stated, that investigation is still ongoing.
Did the school have school shooter protocol?
They did have protocol. To my understanding, we had unfortunately 3 kids that were tragically hurt. It could have been far worse.
Okay, folks, we'll be back again before 4 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
That was Metro Police spokesman Don Aaron at the end, promising some additional information on or before 4 o'clock, about a couple hours. We learned a great deal from that, though, including that this 28-year-old woman, this female white, as the chief described her, went to this school at some point, and you don't know. Now, they only go through 6th grade, so she went here a long time ago, but she's old enough to potentially have had a child there now. You don't know.
Right, and so they also did confirm that there was a car connected to that woman found close by, so they are processing that car. They also do have the address for this woman, and they are at her place right now, whether that's a home or an apartment, a townhome. Police confirmed they are currently actively investigating the address connected to this woman, but so far that's all they've been able to tell us about her.
You know, in other shootings, we've seen this sort of thing play out. They go to the home of the shooter, and I guess they're looking for evidence of long planning, perhaps plans laid out there, maybe other weapons and that sort of thing. There's a great deal we don't know, but clearly the chief indicated, I don't remember the woman wearing body armor, because sometimes they do that. They wear body armor anticipating resistance from law enforcement, and they've got, armor on so that they could, be, perhaps shot, but not go down or be mortally wounded, so they could continue to do more damage. And the chief indicated this could have been far, far worse. I mean, it's a nightmare, but only 3 children killed, 3 adults, but there was 200 kids in there.
The chief of police, Chief Drake, said he was brought to tears whenever he realized what had happened here. And for our men and women of law enforcement who are strong, who deal with tragic scenarios daily, even they, just cannot help but be moved by what has happened. I mean,
sure. The chief's from here. This is his hometown. I mean, he's a Nashville guy.
This just goes back to, so many people have very specific jobs to do in these circumstances, but at the end of the day, they're people, they're parents, they're neighbors, they're, their husbands and wives and people that are all connected to this community, and it has just rocked so many people. And, something too that stood out to me when we were listening to that news conference just moments ago.
We're both taking notes.
Yeah, taking notes. David Roush, who is the director of the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, said something that stood out to me. He said, "We are not going to take criticism for prayers." He said, "Yes, we have a job to do, but we are praying for these families." And we heard some of our other leaders say the same thing. Chief Swan said, "Our hearts and our prayers go out to these families." Not only that, but we are asking you to, in the way that you know how, right? The best way you know how.
Simplest way.
To pray for these families.
Let's go live right now to Fox 17 News' Caitlin Miller, and she is live at Vanderbilt Hospital. And Caitlin, I know the prayers are centered on those most directly impacted by the wounding, but of course everybody involved needs prayer tonight.
Yes, Scott, definitely. We actually just moved over to the Children's Hospital here at Vanderbilt, where I just confirmed with their spokesperson that 3 children were transported here. And we also confirmed that 2 adults were transported to the regular emergency room here at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Now, we are waiting to hear to see if we can speak with someone here at Vanderbilt to get an update and see if there are any other patients in this area. One thing I saw that I really wanted to point out is the Uvalde Foundation for Kids. They actually reached out to the school community here in Green Hills and offered their support and their crisis support line for any families or people in this area impacted. And I thought that was really special just to show the nationwide outreach. And they also said that, you know, this is just a reminder that we really need to take an aggressive approach to end gun violence in the schools. And just being out here at the hospital, I mean, my thoughts and prayers go out to these families involved. I cannot imagine getting that call this morning and having to rush to the hospital to see if their kid or loved one is okay. And we will keep you updated out here at Vanderbilt as we hear more. For now, reporting live, I'm Caitlin Miller, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Caitlin, thank you. I've just got the chills, hearing all of this and what we learned from the news conference. One of the new things that we also picked up, and we've talked about it, here and on air, that Metro Police didn't wait, and the chief had said, if this ever, what happened in Uvalde, if it happens here, here's what's going to happen. And they did exactly what Chief said. We're engaging now.
By all accounts, we even heard from the district attorney, Glenn Funk. We heard from the TBI. They all appear to be on the same page with the mutual understanding that, yes, there was an immediate response of 5 officers who went into that building.
To engage.
They could hear the gunshots when they went in and immediately engaged and shot and killed that woman. Now, we do understand that there was one officer who does have minor injuries as a result of something that happened in the middle of all that.
I'm assuming the shooter was shooting back. They were firing, and we don't know that he was injured or she was injured by a gunshot. That's speculation, but we know the shooter was shooting, and we know they were shooting back, and we can only speculate that perhaps, a ricochet or something, hit the officer.
Well, and all that information will come out as this investigation
maybe by 4
moves forward. Yeah, so we heard Don Aaron, who is a spokesperson for Metro Police, tell us that we will have another update at 4 o'clock, if not sooner. Interesting also to note that Metro Police is leading this investigation. A lot of times another agency will come in and take over for various reasons, but it does sound like the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is going to assist and that Metro is going to lead this.
Well, the way it works in Nashville, people all the time are saying the TBI should investigate. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is only activated by one of 2 things. And one of those is an agreement by a large city police department like Nashville, where there's an officer-involved shooting. We don't investigate our own people. You, the TBI, come in and investigate that. So the TBI is leading that part of it. But the only other time the TBI ever gets involved is when a district attorney, a sitting DA like Glenn Funk, activates the DA and says, I need an agent to do this. And they can often, in smaller counties where law enforcement is not as fortified, for lack of a better word, maybe they're not as experienced, the TBI would lead the investigation on a big shooting. But a big city like Nashville, we've got investigators who are quite experienced, and have been to all the great schools and know how to do this. So they will handle the homicide part of the investigation, and they've got a lot of video, so they'll know exactly how it played out.
Yeah, they're working through the video that they say does exist in and around the school, so that will be part of their investigation. It is 2:07 right now, and I couldn't help but just notice the time. It was 4 hours ago.
That's right.
4 hours ago right now.
10:13.
These kids were at school. The teachers were there.
Everything was fine.
The leaders of the church. It was a normal Monday. These kids are, they just had spring break a week ago. They
6 minutes later.
Gearing up for their Easter celebrations, which we saw the Easter sign.
Yeah, right outside the school.
In front of the school, and there was just no way to comprehend that this is how the day would unfold. And we're getting word. I mentioned, we're members of our communities, and so we're getting word from friends of friends who are so deeply and tragically impacted by this. And so we just want to say a special prayer for all of you. And for those of you who have children or husbands or wives or neighbors who walked out of that building alive today, we're praying for you as well, because what you have to go through now also is going to be
There's no
life-changing.
guidebook for it. Yeah. And we know that the children involved were under the age of a 6th grader, so that's the top end is 12 or 13. They only go from, you know, pre-K, so that's the age we're talking about. And we've heard some ages, but we're waiting for official confirmation, and police have not yet provided that. Let's go back live to just outside the scene right now, and Fox 17 News' Amanda Chen. Amanda?
Yes, as you mentioned, we just heard from the TBI, the district attorney, the Nashville Fire Chief Swan, and Metro Police Chief John Drake. Now, again, as they mentioned, there are 6 victims, 3 children and 3 adults. Now, that 28-year-old white female shooter also dead, and they just confirmed, Chief Drake says that they believe she was a student at some point at Covenant School. They are still working through those details, but they do believe she was a student at that school. Again, she was 28 years old. Chief Drake says he does not believe that she was wearing any body armor, but Metro Police did say this female shooter had at least 2 assault-style rifles and a handgun and entered through a side door, which police say was locked. So they still don't know how she got in those doors. They're looking through that footage right now, but she went in through that side door and went up to the 2nd floor is when she started shooting. Now, Chief John Drake says Metro Police did not wait. They entered right away. They engaged with that female shooter right away. And the district attorney calls this the ultimate crime. Chief Drake says he got emotional when he heard and saw the 3 children being taken out of the school. Again, this is still a fluid situation. Police are still looking through video footage, and we will be sure to keep you updated with any information that we do have. But for now, reporting live from Nashville, I'm Amanda Chen, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Amanda, thank you. As we continue to pour over the information that we gathered from the news conference, we also have another member of our team, virtually every member of the Fox 17 News team, on air, online, you know, people behind the scenes that you don't see, are working, trying to gather information and images from this.
Well, and one of the ways that we gather information on the daily now is through social media.
Yeah.
We have
the new normal.
Oh, we have local, state, national leaders who are sharing their feelings about what's happened here in Nashville on social media, but we've also got folks who
everyday people
witnessed, you know, what went down in the Green Hills neighborhood. We want to send it over to Fox 17 News' Erica Glover, if we can. Erica, I know you've been looking through some new pictures that have just come in.
And we always get permission before we use these so people know.
That's exactly right. And I do want to say first, Jen and Scott, you all were talking about how we know some of the families, some of the neighbors who are being impacted, right? So I was checking in with my husband because our family, we know someone whose little one goes to this particular school. So we were just sitting on pins and needles trying to see what update they had for us. And thankfully their little one is okay. But then I have to think about the other families who aren't getting that news, right? And we have to think about the parents who were just waiting on the edge of their seats, wondering if they were going to be reunited with their little one. Parents like this photo right here, where you can see a little child just crossing a busy intersection
in their
here,
uniforms there.
In
They
their
wear
school
uniforms,
uniforms. Yeah. And then that child, if I zoomed in here more, you really can't get a good picture, but if you go to Fox 17 to the Twitter page, you can see that child is so emotional, and that loved one is just, that mama or whoever is just holding that little one with all she's got. And as I saw that when I was posting that on our Facebook page, I had a viewer then respond to me and say that they were at work and they could see how parents were being reunited with their kids.
Yeah, the husband works across the street apparently, and was able to kind of look out the window and see the whole thing.
They could see kids that were running across this street, and about 2 hours or so, that husband said that he couldn't watch it anymore. He was so emotional.
Gotta go home.
So he had to just go home. And those are the kind of stories that we are seeing on social media. And I know that you all are sharing updates and talking about the shooter, the 28-year-old shooter who used to be a student at this school where all of this took place. And I want to just remind folks that if you want to watch the news conference again, then go to fox17.com. You can watch that in its entirety and get all of those answers. And of course, you can continue watching our newscasts throughout the rest of the day.
Well, we know how people do. It's a multiple, device. We've all got our phones and we're pouring through social media as we sit here.
Erica, thank you so much for that update and that perspective. And speaking of perspective, I want to share with you a little bit more about the Covenant School. We've mentioned this is a church-based school, pre-K up through 6th grade. The head of the school is Dr. Catherine Kuntz. All of this is according to the Covenant School's website. So Dr. Catherine Kuntz is the head of the school there. The Covenant School was founded in 2001.
Fairly new, as schools go,
Yeah,
20 some odd years.
It's a ministry of Covenant Presbyterian Church. According to their website, their average enrollment is right around 200, which we did get an update from Metro Police telling us they believe 209 students. And this was
intimate group.
It is, and they on their website explained their student to teacher ratio.
How small?
It's 8 to 1.
Oh my goodness.
So when we think about, and you mentioned this, what a close-knit community this is. These are small classes.
It's smaller than most Sunday school classes.
Right.
You know these kids.
Very close.
Intensely personal.
Very close. It's the kind of school where, they're done in 6th grade, so a lot of these children go on to either, public school education or other private schools in and around the Nashville area. They mention like Battleground Academy, Brentwood Academy, CPA, Davidson, Ensworth. So the children who go to this up through the 6th grade then go on to further the rest of their education somewhere else.
I saw those images, one of which Erica shared a moment ago, and I'm a kid who grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, but I went to Catholic schools. We wore uniforms just like that. We went to church with the folks that we went to school with, and to your point, incredibly intimate, families you've known since, just came up knowing them, from church, knowing them from school and things. So there's so many people that are going to have connections to this small group of people. Let's go back live now to Fox 17 News' Jackie Del Pilar, who's live outside the scene. Are things breaking up there at all? One sense is, at the church that hopefully by now everybody's been collected, but I gather that maybe law enforcement and some others are coming there as well.
Scott, folks are leaving the church, but there's still a lot of people here gathered, hugging on each other, loving on each other, sending prayers, sharing prayers. We've seen folks kind of slowly streaming out of the church. Not so many people coming in at this point, but a lot of people slowly leaving. But there's not been a mass exodus of folks. There's not been a moment where we say, okay, they closed the church, people are leaving now. This is very much still an active scene here. I'll give you a look. You can see folks, like I said, coming in and out. A lot of times we'll see people coming out slowly, hugging each other. Their arms are around each other as they make their way to their vehicles and head home. We spoke with the head pastor here. Actually, he just is here in the grass in this red shirt. He's the lead pastor of the church. Earlier, he asked us to step off the property and give space to these families, which is what we're doing. I'll go pop over and talk to him here in just a minute to see what updates he has. But I did have a chance to speak with a school psychologist earlier, or a child psychologist rather, who was inside immediately after families started showing up. He is working on a program here in Nashville that helps with mental health, and so he decided to come down here and see how he can help. He said that inside there was a big prayer circle. He said everyone was praying over each other and hugging. He said, oh, look, looks like there's a lot of folks leaving the church here now. But the person inside told me that the police were doing an excellent job making sure that everyone had what they need. You can see some people here in the parking lot. They're hugging on each other, like I said earlier. Just an emotional scene here as families are leaving this church, trying to process what happened and just extending love and support where they can. Gosh, that's just such a powerful image, seeing those folks walking out together.
I know. I see one of the signs, or one of the on the back
really
of the shirt. It says police chaplain on one of those gentlemen's shirts.
Yes. The police chaplain is here. They have been here lending support. I've seen multiple chaplains actually here throughout the day. I've seen some folks in scrubs with Vanderbilt who were here as well, lending support. A lot of different responders here. Firefighters are here. they've got, you know, drinks and snacks. We actually were able to grab a water bottle from them earlier because we were out here in the sun as well. Just a very supportive scene here. And as folks are driving by too, they're rolling down the window. They're asking us for updates. They're asking us what's going on. They're sending prayers. So it's just showing how the community is coming together here. We've seen families coming out with little ones. We've seen grandparents, cousins, neighbors. This is really just considered a safe space for folks to come and gather and just love and pray on each other. And Scott, like you said, at this point, I haven't gotten the official word, but at this point, I think everyone is accounted for in here in the church because we're seeing folks leaving. But yeah, just such an emotional scene out here. But we'll be staying out here trying to talk to folks who are up for it. You know, we're not going to be too invasive on folks as they're processing and grieving, but we will be out here speaking with families and other folks shut up, and we'll share more updates later on.
Jackie, thank you for that update. We do have crews around Nashville, you know, working to get you all the updates that we can to this story. We've got Jackie Del Pilar, we have Kelly Avellino, we've got Erica Glover here in studio.
Amanda Chan.
Amanda, we have Caitlin Miller over at Vanderbilt
Children's Hospital,
where, you know, there are moms and dads
who have tiny bodies there that they're going to have to go to a funeral home after this.
And
these poor babies are going to be autopsied too, because, well, there's data that has to be collected. There won't be a criminal case where we have to have a trial and find out all these things, because the shooter in this case is dead, unless we find out this person acted in concert with somebody else.
Well, and right now, what police have been able to tell us about the shooter, a 28-year-old woman from the Nashville area. They did find a car near the church, the school.
So presumably drove there with these weapons in tow.
And they do have an address connected to this woman that they are actively working right now. They did not tell us anything else about this person other than the details I just gave you. And I know that so many people want answers and want justice and want accountability and want change and want safety and want reassurance, and those are things that may or may not come as we get more answers.
Unfortunately, with other shootings that we have seen like this around the country, in too many cases they seem to be, when we can find out who is behind them, you know, I guess committed by somebody who has mental health issues, and you can't help but wonder if something like that is at play here, and that's one of the many things we don't know. But in my mind, nobody in their right mind goes into a school with little children and starts shooting.
Well, and police did tell us that this woman went in through a side door, but police also did say that this school does have safety protocols in place.
Got a plan.
You know, we are working to find out what that might have been.
Well, we did kind of learn during the news conference something new, in that apparently some people inside the school, one person took a group of kids into a tree line, another took them to the fire station nearby. So these adults, I guess maybe that was part of their plan.
Well,
assuming so.
Yeah, you know, every school, whether it's a public school, a private school, a church-based school, they all have some sort of plan. I mean,
well, they drill like you and I used to for tornadoes. Now they drill for active shooting.
Having been, and our children have been on both sides of that. Scott and I have been on both sides of the school systems, and I can tell you, every place that is an institution of education for children has some kind of emergency plan. You know, the question ends up being, was the plan followed? Were the proper protocols in place? You know,
or the outside doors secured? Because I mean, that was the thing in Uvalde. That person, you know, was off the property down in Texas, you know, waving the guns around, and supposedly everything got locked down, but the shooter got inside.
Right. So I mentioned that we do have team coverage on this breaking news. It's 2:21 right now. We have been on the air for a couple of hours. The first calls came in about 10:15 this morning. So for those of you who might just now be turning on your TV or streaming us on your phone, why don't we do this? Why don't we just kind of take a breath, reset, and start from the beginning of what we know. And
we know that there are some people who are at work and maybe they don't live with their phone in their hand like we do. But at 10:13 a.m. this morning, Metro Police tell us that the call came in from the Covenant School in Green Hills, the Burton Hills neighborhood. And it's a small private Christian school that starts at pre-K, goes up through 6. very shortly after we learned that victims had been transported there to the hospital. 3 children, which we now know are confirmed dead, 3 adults in the school, but we don't know whether they were teachers, administrators, or some other member of the school staff. And subsequently, we heard that there was a female shooter and then maybe a teenager, but that turned out not to be true.
Right. Metro Police confirming a 28-year-old woman in the Nashville area is the person responsible for this. You know, you mentioned that 1013 call where shots ring out, police are dispatched. You know, at 10:13 this morning, a lot of these children had already been in school for a couple of hours, preschool at the Covenant School, and pre-K starts at 7:50. Kindergarten through 6th grade also starts at 7:50. So these children had already been well into their routine of the day. It was just another Monday, lunchtime. You know, yeah, just another Monday, probably snack time, getting close to lunchtime for these children, when everything changed in an instant. And both Metro Police, the TBI, the District Attorney's Office, all with the same story during a news conference that Metro Police immediately ran into the threat. There was no waiting. There was no hold on a minute. There was no let's coordinate this. There was no wait for this to get
Which
here.
is the way you want it. There's children in danger, people in danger inside the building. Shots are fired. We immediately enter. And Chief Drake let us know just, I don't know, half an hour ago, maybe 45 minutes ago, 5 officers made the attack. And I'm sure the call goes out. And we have scanners here where we can hear police calls. Most folks cannot, you know, get that. But, you know, you're in the area. I'm sure everybody converged. You know, me, you, whoever's in the area. 5 of them went in at the same time, coordinated efforts, and did what needed to be done.
Yeah, police said they could hear the gunshots as they entered the building, so they went in the direction of the sound, and that's when there was an exchange, and that 28-year-old woman was killed. But by that time, that woman, who police confirmed went into the Covenant School in Green Hills with 2 assault-style rifles and 1 handgun, and by that time had already killed 3 children
Just that quick.
and 3 adults.
And depending on the amount of ammunition and the clips and how many bullets they held, the chief indicated, he didn't share that information, but he said this could have been so much worse. Because, you know, you've got people in a confined space. Thank heavens this wasn't at a larger school where the classrooms are larger, and you know, if you, wherever these people were, you know, if you bigger school has just more folks in the same proximity, and when bullets are flying, it is, you know, a lose-lose situation.
Well, we also know the connection here between the school and Vanderbilt University, because immediately, you know, first responders rush in.
Very close by.
Yeah, and Vanderbilt University, the Children's Hospital, they're confirming to Fox 17 News that, in fact, they did have 3 children who came to the hospital who died. We, behind the scenes, and through just some of our personal friend circles and family circles, are hearing things, but we're not sharing that yet. Just know that these are young children. I mean, all of them 6th grade and younger.
The oldest kid there would have been 12, 13 max.
Yeah, so we...
as young as 4.
That's where we are right now, okay? So we kind of ran you through the timeline of what happened this morning. We know that by now, families have learned about their children or their loved ones. We've seen people filing out of the church, a lot of investigators still on the scene, and still so many questions that we know you want answered and we want answered as well. So we're working just as hard as we can to get it.
Now, we do know that the shooter in this case, the woman, the 28-year-old white female who is now deceased, has a connection to the school. She at some point went to that school. We know it started around 2000. She's 28 years old, so she has got to have been away from there for, you know, quite a number of years. You wonder what happened. But we do also know that police, based on identifying her, have made their way to her home. I don't know if it's a home or an apartment, but wherever she lives, and are going through that scene right now. No doubt looking for signs that maybe you wrote something down, why you did this, what's the beef?
Right.
That's the why.
Why in the world? Well, as we continue to piece together the story and work to share some of the stories of the people so deeply impacted, we're following different social media accounts that are verified, where we know we've got credible information, and that's what Fox 17 News' Erica Glover has been doing for us this morning, this afternoon. Erica, what do you have now?
Well, Jen and Scott, I'm taking a closer look at the photo that is right behind me here, coming into our Fox 17 newsroom from viewers out there who were in this area at the time. This photo, I'm going to take it behind me, but I also spoke with my producer to show it right here on the screen. That way you get a better view of this. And we blurred out some of the faces, but what is so noticeable here, and Scott, you pointed this out, they're crossing this very busy street and they still have their school uniforms on. And also with the photo that's coming into our newsroom is also a witness account. And I want to just take a moment to read a portion of what was shared with our newsroom. So this particular person was making a delivery right next to the school. They say, or they wrote to us, "I heard gunshots start as I'm walking back to my car, so I jump in my car. It was just so loud and an actual barrage of shots fired, but I really didn't know where it was coming from or that it was even at the school. So they left the immediate area. They turned right onto Hillsborough Road, headed towards town. That's when they saw a woman jumping out of the woods into the road directly in front of that person. They slam on their brakes. They see the children behind her. They jump out and start waving their arms at that point, and they try to go ahead and direct traffic. They try to stop the other vehicles from continuing on down this road." So those are some of the updates that we're getting here, and they talk about how they saw the helicopters and the police that were, on foot running by this area. And again, that person just jumping out of their vehicle, trying to do whatever they could, trying to also figure out what was going on in this moment. And I know Jen and Scott, you're parents. I'm expecting my first child. So of course, we can so relate to what all of these families are currently feeling at the moment.
I know after I first became a parent, I even thought for a time about getting out of the news business. Because I guess all the things that happen now, it's personal in a way. I never purported to understand how a crime victim felt about losing a loved one, but all of a sudden, I knew what it was like to love something. And you're going to find out, Erica,
yeah.
You would jump in front of a train.
Right, and I have to say too, when I was heading to the newsroom, we live near a school. Yeah. And Jen's seen my house, I can see the kids playing. And it felt so different to hear that news and then hear my husband trying to check on our friends and our family and knowing that we have a baby on the way and then seeing those kids playing out in there in the backyard. I just had to stop a moment and just pray.
So innocent, yeah. And every one of them innocent.
And
just
that's,
babies.
in a scenario like this where none of us can really, truly put ourselves in anybody else's shoes, we can have compassion and empathy and pray and, just be there for people who are going to need a support system, right? I mean, whether they lost their child or their family member today, or whether their children or their family member survived today, there will be things like survivor's guilt, right? I mean, Erica,
why am I still here in that child?
Right, like you were talking about seeing all those little kids out there today and those moms and dads who get to go home tonight and hug their kids.
Well, unfortunately, those parents are also going to be thinking, why my baby?
Right.
Why? Why? Why, Lord, has this come to my door? Why?
So hard to understand.
And there's no why.
There's not. We just have to have.
There's evil in the world.
We just have to have faith. And some of that faith lies in, answers, right? And when you finally maybe feel like you get a little bit of closure to something, or
I don't know how folks who don't have faith get by in days like this.
Well, Erica, thank you for that perspective, and we appreciate you, and we'll check back with you here in just a few minutes as you get more information. Thanks.
We should ask as well, I know there are other viewers that may have video, may have compelling images. And television operates on two axes, pictures and sound, the pictures that tell the story, and we depend on our neighbors, our friends to help us tell the story here. And there's a story of a lot of heroes, and that's what I see when I see a woman in the road who I assume is a teacher stopping traffic, getting these babies away. That's a hero, a community hero.
or the, you know, our
anybody who helped is a hero.
Law enforcement who ran toward the gunshots.
They're heroes.
Without thinking, you know, to
That's
try
right.
to stop it, or the teachers, or the cafeteria workers, or, you know, the volunteers who were there this morning.
Ordinary folk.
Who hid
up.
children. I mean, our kids, sadly, our kids know what to do in a situation like this because they've been trained and told what to do if
Isn't
this
that
ever
horrible?
happens.
But that's the world we live in.
That's just where we are. And so, talking about heroes, there will be stories of men and women and children who stepped in today to save lives. Thank God, right? That they did something, whether they hid children in a closet or moved them out of the building.
You always hope you'd have the courage to do what you can when the time comes up.
It is heavy. It is so it's heavy on your heart. You know, it's heavy in our community, and so we just, you know, we're doing the absolute best that we can to not only keep you informed today, but just know that
bring some humanity to it.
We're all connected in all this in one way or the other. So
we are. Fox 17 News' Kelly Avellino is our weekend anchor. She's helping us out today. She's right outside the entrance to the school. Kelly, the scene there obviously still quite active. I'm sure it will be all day, probably for days to come.
Absolutely, Scott and Jennifer. We can see more and more emergency vehicles and other vehicles that were parked inside the parking lot for the Covenant Elementary School and church there, leaving at this point. It has thinned out some, but again, still very active at this point. Recounting what we have confirmed at this time, 3 young children and 3 adults losing their lives after Metro Nashville police say a 28-year-old woman, a Nashville resident, somehow made it in through a side door into the school with 2 assault-style rifles and a handgun. She did fire, again, taking 6 lives. Metro Nashville police arriving within moments. This all happening just after 10:15 this morning. They did not hesitate. They went right into the school and took out the threat, took out the shooter. Still, though, many lives lost this morning, 6 lives, 3 children and 3 adults. We have some moving pictures on our social media that I was just looking at Fox 17's Instagram of community members, family members, a woman in the middle of a street holding a child and other children crossing the street, getting away from that active shooter. I spoke to 2 families who live across the street, heard the gunshots this morning. They tell me the response was very quick. They didn't realize what was happening at the time, and then ultimately, after tuning in and learning what had happened, they realized it was a shooting. These families have friends and families that attend Covenant Elementary, and of course it's just harrowing moments waiting to hear from those you love. And of course there are 6 families today that will not hear from their children or loved ones. So certainly a lot of people now coping with that loss and trying to, I guess, carry on throughout the rest of this investigation. We do know the suspect's home was located. Officers, investigators are at that site now, potentially looking through things to find out what type of motive. We know the shooter did attend school here years ago when she was of elementary school age. And at this point, we are just waiting to hear more information. I spoke to 2 school employees who were inside the building preparing lunches at the time. They are just very unnerved. They actually are an entire family that works at this school, and they are waiting for the facilities manager, who is their family member, to come back out there looking over security video. Again, this investigation will be ongoing for days, weeks, months to find out things like how this woman was able to get into what police say was a locked side door. So those answers will come, but again, just harrowing moments here as the activity has lessened a little bit, but still a very intense crime scene here right now. I'll send it back into the studio.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much for that live update. Kelly is just outside of the Covenant School, which is where the breaking news has happened today in the event that you're just now joining us. 6 people killed at the Covenant School in Nashville. This is in the Green Hills area. Very busy part of town, a lot of neighborhoods and restaurants and
it's a very affluent part of town.
Shopping, yes. This is where you would go to Green Hills Mall. Just so think that general area. The calls came in at 10:15 this morning. Police do confirm that a 28-year-old woman is dead as the shooter, but that we have 3 children and 3 adults who sadly lost their lives this morning when they simply showed up to go to school.
Obviously, one of the things that we're hoping to learn in the next few hours and share with you is who was this woman? What was her exact connection to the school? When did she go there? She's old enough to potentially have a child that was, in school there now. She's 28 years old, so it's not outside the realm of possibility. She graduated, married or involved in a relationship that produced a child. But what was her beef, with that location? It is a church-connected school. All the kids that went to school there, 209 was the official count. Those made it out and were all slowly taken to nearby Woodmont Baptist Church, which is about 1.5 miles away, right at the intersection of Woodmont Boulevard and Hillsborough Road, just about a half a mile off of 440. And that's where parents came and picked up their children, except for those that were transported to the hospital. And we mentioned 6 victims. 3 children, all under the age of 12, 13, possibly as young as 4, and 3 adults, but we don't have information on exactly how old they are or what they did at the school. But the 7th death there, because the graphic said 7 dead, is that 28-year-old woman who Metro Police moved in. There were 5 of them, engaged the shooter, neutralized the threat.
All right. We have been several hours now into this breaking news story, and as you might imagine, there is a lot of speculation that is already swirling on social media. I want to just take this opportunity to tell you what we do know and what we don't know with regards to the weapons used in today's school shooting. The only thing that Metro PD has confirmed to us is that this 28-year-old woman came in with 2, and I quote, assault-style rifles and 1 handgun. If you are seeing anything on social media that says otherwise, at this point, that would be speculation. We have not been given the type specifically of gun or guns that were used today. But for one, I'm already seeing that on social media. In fact, the President of the United States has already gone on Fox News to talk about this. He's made an address and has made specific mention of the type of gun used.
Really?
That information has not been released locally.
Not that the president couldn't have it, because we know that agents with the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, we refer to them as the ATF, also responded to this shooting, not necessarily because they were needed, but because we have federal agents. I guess they are connected, and we're going to come, we're going to help. I mean, the THP doesn't do this sort of thing, but they responded.
Sure.
And
So it's possible that there is information specifically with
let's
regards
hope he would be informed when he said that.
But let's hope so. But again, just locally here at home, what we do have confirmation of is 2 assault-style rifles and 1 handgun.
Yes, and sometimes people refer to weapons as being automatic weapons, and
or
some of them look,
interchangeably. And
yes, and they look really scary. It doesn't necessarily mean they're an automatic weapon, but I know this, bullets come out of guns, and you're just as dead whether it was an automatic weapon or another type of weapon that we, often hear, AR-15 style that we hear associated with some crimes. But we don't yet know exactly what's involved. Or the biggest thing is why? What would possess someone? Right. Who is this person? What has so angered you? What's going on in your life? And all we can do is speculate, ask questions, because we don't have that official information.
Yeah, until we see a letter or a social media post, which is what we do see in some of these cases. At this point, we just don't know. But I know that that's the number one question, is the why. So we're working along with investigators to find that out. Also, this morning, it's an afternoon now, but the shooting this morning has prompted, and we know this by talking to some of our connections behind the scene, this morning's deadly shooting very quickly prompted other local school districts to huddle, talk about, assess, or reassess or address security concerns that exist in our schools, whether they're public schools or private schools. I know for a fact that conversations have already been had today since the shooting this morning with regards to what are we doing in our schools to make sure our children are safe? Can we be doing more? What can we, and listen, I say this knowing full and well that when we talk about safety and security at our schools, you cannot put a price tag on the life of anyone, and yet every time it comes down to the money.
It does. And you know,
do we have the money to install the cameras or the security
SROs.
guards or the metal detectors?
There's a bill that will come before the Senate Finance Committee in our own Tennessee State Legislature tomorrow at 8:30, and it is an SRO bill. I'll have to call that up and see what the specifics are, but presumably it would be talking about finances to fund a school resource officer. They're already in, you know, pretty much all the high schools, and a lot of times they are in the middle schools. And this presumably would be a bill to maybe include elementary schools. That's a conversation that's being had in other states. It's a conversation that has been had in Nashville, i.e., shouldn't we do this based on what we've seen at other places? Because it used to be, when these things happened, it was only in a high school, and then all of a sudden it happened in middle school. And then we had, you know, in Uvalde, Texas, an elementary school targeted, and there have been others. And so that's why the conversation is being had, but it's going on now in the backdrop of this very real case, not in some other state, in the heart of Nashville, where our legislature is meeting and you know, trying to make new laws that will govern, you know, our populace right now.
Well, not only that, but I can imagine the number of parents who today called their school immediately and said, I just want to make sure everything's okay at my school. Are my kids safe? Should we be concerned?
Or I'm coming to pick my child
I'm coming
up
to get
because
my kids.
I just want my child.
Sometimes that's
I can only know they're safe when they're with me.
Yes, and so in addition to the, you know, the leaders in our school districts and the lawmakers who, you know, this will be conversations for weeks now. Yeah, the parents who are calling schools and saying, what are we doing? What do we have in place? What is our standard operating procedure? What are our protocols? How do I know my kids are safe? And those are all very real, very valid questions in, you know, in this day and age when we have children who are trained in how to respond to a situation like this. I never will forget the first time my daughter came home from school and she explained how she, okay, I'm gonna try to get through this without losing it, but at that time, and this was years ago, they were told that each kid in an active emergency or an active shooter, each child had a job to do. And, you know, okay, Jimmy, you do this, you know, honey, you do this, and children had little specific jobs that they were supposed to do in the event that there was an active shooter. And I never will forget when my daughter came home that day, and she was little. I mean, she was like maybe 5 or 6, and she said, Mama, I'm the one that has to secure the door.
Isn't that something? My
and I
child's
just
got the
remember
job.
thinking, why did my kid, right? Like, why? But when schools are trying to
Big
get
responsibility.
When schools are trying to get kids to understand in very simple terms, you have to do this to stay safe. That's how it happens. And, you know, children who are taught, okay, you lock the door, you go to that corner, you get behind that desk, you go in that closet, you turn off the lights. I mean, that's, in very simplified terms, what our children learn these days.
I've gone on the state website, the General Assembly's website, to identify the bill that I just sort of referenced. Hey, we understand they're having this hearing. It was filed March 15th, so just a couple weeks back. The bill, this is what it says in summary. It would require, so there's no, you know, like, oh, you can do that if you want to. No, it would require each local education agency, they call that an LEA, to assign at least one full-time school resource officer, SRO, in each school to serve during the regular school day, during school-sponsored events held at the school, and it talks about the money. So apparently, I'm looking at 1,837 schools in the state. Average cost for an SRO, they were estimating at $73,000 a year, and I'm sure that's, you know, pay, retirement, sick time, health insurance, all that sort of stuff. But this is coming up tomorrow before the Senate Finance Committee. You said it's all about money, and from them, it'll be providing the money. And Tennessee's never had more money than what we have. We keep doing these stories about the billion-dollar surplus that we have. So it's not as if, oh, we've got to impose new taxes to pay for this. No, we have the money.
All right, so that'll be an angle that we continue to work as, you know, the days and the weeks progress here. Right now, though, we do want to let you know, as part of our team coverage, we have Fox 17 News' Jackie Del Pilar joining us. She has been just outside of the church school working to get us updates. So I'll confirm that she's standing by, ready to go. Yes, okay, we see Jackie now. Jackie, give us your update.
Yeah, we continue to see families leaving the church that's been established here as the reunification center. Every couple of minutes we see a family walk out, often multiple children, and these are young children. We know this is an elementary and middle school. We're seeing children, you know, kindergartners, first graders in their uniforms, their parents with their arms around them as they walk to their cars beside us. They are getting escorted by police and deputies, making sure that they are safe, getting across the road into their car and just being with them as they head to their car to go to the privacy of their own home. But there are still a lot of people here. I'll give you a look. Lots of cars streaming out. We haven't seen as many people coming in lately, but we're seeing more people leaving. This has been a very emotional day here as families are coming and loved ones all coming into this church to pray together, arms around each other, just lending support where they can. We've seen community members who, with no connection to the school, coming up to help. Just a couple of minutes ago, a gentleman carrying a cooler came by and offered us water and snacks because he knows that we've been out here for a while as well, and he's going around making sure that everyone has what they need. I've seen multiple cars pull up with people getting out with bags of supplies and snacks, just lending a hand however they can in this extremely difficult time. It really is emotional seeing these young children in their school uniforms walking hand in hand with their parents as they go to their car. And you know, I know it's so hard for us to process this as adults. I can't imagine what's going through these young children's heads. That's the horrific experience that they just had. I spoke with a child psychologist earlier. He's from the UK and he's doing a project in the UK and in Nashville. He just happened to be in town for his project, so he came down to the church here. He came down to speak with families and be with them and make sure that they had what they needed. He spoke about how Metro Police were doing such a fantastic job inside, making sure that everyone had what they needed. There was a big prayer circle. Everyone got in a giant circle and just started to pray. The best thing that we have right now is each other. So this is just really just a safe space for families, loved ones, friends, neighbors, anyone who has any kind of connection to this school to come here and just be with each other right now. We haven't got any official updates here as far as how long they're going to be open. I did speak with the Red Cross earlier. They are here. They're here to lend support when they can. And I asked the Red Cross employee, you know, how long are you guys going to be here? And she said, as long as it takes. So we will stay out here and keep you updated throughout the day. Again, still very active around here. There is the traffic has been slowing down. I think a lot of people are just kind of slowing down to take a look, but there's police around every perimeter here. So we'll continue to stay out here and bring you updates throughout this newscast. Reporting live, I'm Jackie Del Pilar with Fox 17 News, your Codehead station.
Jackie, thank you. Obviously busy there in Green Hills, and Woodmont Baptist Church, which was, I guess, the site of the reunification center. They also have a Mother's Day out there, and yeah, I saw some very small kids, and you couldn't help but wonder if some of those kids were not connected to the Covenant School, but maybe just did Mother's Day out. You know, they do it Tuesdays and Thursdays, Mondays and Wednesdays, and you know,
sure,
a couple hours.
You know, we were talking just a moment ago about the response on the part of other schools here in Middle Tennessee upon hearing about this news, and you know, not only, you know, assessing their internal policies and procedures for an intruder or an active shooter, but a lot of leaders of our local school districts are now sounding off and sharing their concerns, their thoughts, their prayers. And so if we've got Erica on standby right now, I'd like to send it over to Erica because she's been able to put together a lot of this in one place to look at pretty
all those
easily.
Comments.
Yeah.
You bet.
All right, well, Jen and Scott over on Fox17.com, we are putting together a list, a continuous list that we are continuing to update, is what I really should say, hearing from the federal, state, and local leaders about their feelings about this, about what they want to see moving forward. One statement that I'm going to read is from Senator Marsha Blackburn. And in one part of this, she says, quote, "My office is in contact with federal, state, and local officials, and we stand ready to assist." Now, I know some parents were wondering if their school district is being impacted in any way, because I know I live by a school, and I saw more parents than usual already there earlier in the day picking up their student just out of precaution. So we did hear from Rutherford County Schools as well, and they said, hey, we're on spring break right now, so they're not seeing that kind of situation. The Tennessee Titans even tweeting out, "We were heartbroken by the senseless loss of life at Covenant School today. We offer our condolences to the families and friends of the victims and the entire Covenant School community." If I continue scrolling on down here, and I do want to go to the bottom, because the Southern Christian Coalition also sharing that this situation, and we know this, but I'm going to quote it, "This situation is a horrific tragedy and the worst nightmare of every parent and teacher." And then going back to our leaders, right? Representative Mark Green providing a lengthy statement here, and I'm going to read a portion of this, and it says, "No family should ever have to endure this. Right now, the most powerful message we can send is that we are a state that grieves together and stands together. Thank you all to our first responders working on site and the medical teams over at Vanderbilt." And I also want to just share that you can go to Fox 17 News, our website, our Twitter, our Facebook account, and get some of the facts regarding this, because I am seeing some misinformation on social media, and that happens when we have breaking news situations. But we want to get the facts out there, especially for the parents who are being impacted by this, for the loved ones who are out of state, who are going to fox17.com, who are just trying to get some information. Maybe they can't get in contact with their loved ones during this very busy time. So just lean on that resource. And of course, you can go to this particular link that we have on our website, and it talks about community leaders responding. If you search that, you're going to get this site right here, and you're going to see, again, how we're continuously updating this. But of course, Jen and Scott, you know that our leaders, they often go to Twitter and share their thoughts on this. And it's just something that, unfortunately, a lot of them are relating to, right? Because they are parents. Because they can show their emotions and talk about how they're feeling impacted, or maybe they know someone who's being impacted by this firsthand.
I just received a statement via email from the Catholic Diocese of Nashville. I'll read it really quickly. It says, "News of the shooting and the loss of lives at the Covenant School this morning, deeply sad and shocking," and that was according to Brian Cooper, who's Chancellor, Chief Operating Officer of the Diocese. "Painful reminder these horrific events can happen at any time, and we are not immune."
Yeah, we have, you know, Scott and I were thinking earlier this afternoon about the last time we had to report on a school shooting, and it would have been years ago in Marshall County, Kentucky, where a student there killed 2 classmates. That student has been sentenced, but you know, that community, even to this day, still grieves the loss of those 2 children in a small town. And I know Nashville's not really a small town anymore, but this is a small, tight-knit community. And you know, when you look at 200 children going from pre-K up to 6th grade, a class ratio of 1 teacher for 8 kids, that is like family. And when we talk about, your circles of friends or your contacts or your co-workers or your family or extended family, we are all in some way, shape, or form impacted when this happens in our backyard.
You mentioned the school shooting in Marshall County, Kentucky. And it's so funny, that's essentially Benton, Kentucky, but Marshall County, Kentucky's a little bit of a weird egg. It's one of the only places I'm even aware of that people say, I'm from Marshall County rather than the city. I'm sorry.
Right. No, I just wanted you to check your battery on your mic. I think we just lost your microphone.
Oh, well, that's not good.
So if you want to change that, go ahead and change it real quick. And but to Scott's point, when you talk about small towns or tight-knit communities, there's not anybody who doesn't feel this in some way. And if you have a heart, I mean, it's hard to process the how and the why and the what, and it's impossible, as much as we care for and pray for and love and support the people who were victims of this today, we cannot possibly begin to imagine what you're going through.
I was about to tell you before my mic went out, but when this happened there, I was dispatched from here, I went up there. Why did they send me? I used to work in Paducah, Kentucky for a couple of years before I came back to Nashville and worked here 16 years ago. When I get there, there's a guy that I know who had worked with me at the television station in Paducah at the time, but now he teaches radio and television at Marshall County High School. And, you know, talk about tangentially connected, his daughter was one of the students. And he's on site as a former news guy, but now I'm an instructor and I have a child here. And I can remember when those kids were preschool, we used to do Friday night football coverage just like we do, and he would always, you know, have the football and he would say, hi to Maddie and Will, his two kids. And it was Maddie, M-A-D-D-I-E, that was in the school at the time. And he couldn't talk to me about it other than just, let me hold him.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
personal.
And you know, for the families that will not be able to hold their little ones tonight. I mean, they had to go to Vanderbilt today to identify their babies. You know, after this shooting, you can't. I mean, and you know, I feel so much pain for those parents knowing that.
And I cannot imagine.
And yeah,
No.
so we even heard our leaders of law enforcement and the TBI saying, please pray for these families. They are not shying away from that. In fact, one of them said, we are not
going to complain.
Don't even try complaining.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear it. They said,
Not
don't
hearing
even
that.
complain. We don't want to hear it. We're praying for these people. That's what they need, because in so many cases, there's nothing else that we can do except be unified in that one thing. So however you pray or meditate, whatever that might be, for these families and for them to one day, maybe someday, find any level of peace.
You mentioned the connection. This is a global thing. We're monitoring social media, and people across the world are talking about this. In fact, Erica has a comment that I believe this one's from Africa.
Okay, so you talk about around the world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm back on social media right now on Twitter. I'm not going to show you the photo because it does show some of the students and their faces, and I don't want to do that. But from Brittany Grayson, who is a doctor, this tweet just 4 hours ago, and I'm going to get the exact timestamp for you, but just 4 hours ago, we arrived at the Covenant School in Nashville. Our dear friends invited us to speak at the chapel and stay and visit their girls' classrooms. She then shares a photo of the classroom. The kids were great. We taught them about life in Kenya and what it means to be a missionary. And then she then goes on to say, we drove away at 10:12 a.m. and less than 20 minutes later is when the shots rang out on campus. She also goes on to tweet out, there are no words for this feeling. I think the normal feeling is supposed to be relief that we were already gone and our lives are safe. But of course, right now, she's just thinking, oh my goodness, we were just in that classroom, just in there talking about life in Kenya and what it means to be a missionary. And I know that we were sharing a lot of tweets over on our Fox Nashville Facebook page, or I should say on the Twitter account, and then on our Fox 17 Facebook page, as well as Instagram, just sharing updates that we're getting. And these are the kind of comments that we're getting. Folks that were on the campus just moments before, or folks who had some sort of connection. So they're sharing how perhaps their office where they worked at was just down the street and they were looking out the window or hearing things from what was going on the street. That's what we're sharing with you right here in our studio. I also wanted to send it back over to Scott and Jen because you all were talking about, the experiences from folks who have those connections. And then how we are continuing to get updates from our local leaders. That's something that I'm going to be double checking on my phone right here that I'm constantly looking at to see how they're reacting to this, what changes they want to see. Of course, we know in real time it's happening so fast.
Sure.
And so that's what I'm trying to keep up with. But okay. I mean, that's just a crazy perspective to hear.
It is.
You guys have been up since the crack of dawn. My hat is off to you as well for your, just being here and walking with us. Couldn't do this alone, I'll just tell you that.
Well,
and bless you and thank you.
No, of course. Listen, this is a team effort, and this is what we do, and we serve our communities, and we do it, on the good days and the bad days and everything in between. And we hope that by all of us being here for you, along with our crews in the field that are working hard behind the scenes, that you feel informed, and that we give you a good you know, I guess all-encompassing look at what we are trying to process here in this tragedy in Nashville.
And part of that includes the coverage we're showing you right now. This is the Fox 17 News drone that is up, showing you what's going on this school property. That's the Covenant Church/school property in question. We're obviously being very careful to keep our space, and we've got a limited amount of time to be up because these drones, you know, are battery operated and that sort of thing. But you can see there's still a lot of folks at that school. There's still a lot of law enforcement vehicles right up there on the perimeter. There's people moving around the parking lot. I assume that the shooter's car is among those that are in that parking lot. I see a big unit that looks like a camper or something kind of on the left-hand side of your screen in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that is a TBI crime scene unit that has been dispatched to the scene, or a Metro Police unit where they do the forensic work of, you know, looking for fingerprints and taking the photographs and things of that nature. And you also see what looks like maybe a cover in the parking lot. That may be totally over the car. And this is, again, about in the middle over on the left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like maybe some tent where they would put a tent on there to preserve fingerprints, to keep prying eyes like ours or others from seeing what they're doing as they process that vehicle.
Well, that's an interesting point, and we do know, and it confirmed through Metro Police, that yes, in fact, the 28-year-old woman who they say is responsible for this tragedy today did have a car close by. Police confirmed they were inspecting that car. They also told us they had an address for that woman, that they were actively searching as well. Now, we've been working, you know, to get that information for you, both about the car and the house, as we, along with investigators, just work to try to piece this thing together.
Too. Doesn't that look like that's what, because this is in the parking lot, and you would normally have something like that in the parking lot. It flat out looks like a tent that would be placed over a vehicle while you processed it.
It does. Now, you know, I'm also looking even to the top and to the left of that, what looks like perhaps another type of cover.
Yeah. And maybe they're doing some work there. We don't know. I'm just speculating here.
It is possible. Now, I will say also, you know, we did see a blue crane out by the school earlier this morning.
That was at Woodmont Church, Woodmont Baptist Church.
Oh, you're right. That was at the church.
Yeah,
That's right. My mistake.
So, and we thought maybe they were cleaning the windows, fixing the roof. Who knows? I mean, we've had, you know, wind damage, you know, lately.
So at this point, you know, we can see the crime scene tape. We can see a lot of police vehicles.
Yeah, but that's what those look like, mobile crime scene units that either TBI or Metro Police possess right in the middle of the screen. We're getting a closer look now than we were a minute ago, and you can see a little bit more image-wise. It's pretty obvious these two vehicles, that one's blue and white, so maybe that's Metro or the fire department. There's like an ambulance there still on scene, a bunch of white cars with stuff on. You can tell those are police vehicles on top. You can kind of see the word police, because they can spot them from the air. And but you don't see a lot of people moving around, although there is some. I see guys here in the parking lot. I say guys, gals, I don't know who they are.
We are respectfully keeping a bit of a distance, but wanted to launch the drone so that you could just get a better perspective of, you know, the size of this church. It is a big presence in the Green Hills community. We won't do anything that would impede this investigation. That's the last thing, right, that we would want to do. So we keep that distance, but bring this to you just to kind of, like I said, give you that perspective. And one of our shots from the drone just a moment ago, and by the way, this is live, you could see, I think it was off to the right, Green Hills Mall in the distance, and this is,
that's exactly right,
you
pretty
know,
close by.
That part of town where Green Hills Mall is just down the road. Landmarks like, you know, the Bluebird Cafe are close by, and at 3:05 right now, it's always busy in this part of town. There's always just a lot of general traffic congestion, but as we get closer to the rush hour time, later this afternoon and into the evening, you know, it's just worth noting that if you have business or, you know, an appointment or, you know, a sporting event or something like that in the Green Hills area, just please be advised that there are still a lot of police officers and a lot of grieving families who are over in this part of town. So just maybe give them a little extra space.
You know, the world is watching. I'm looking right now at a story from the Daily Mail, which is a major world publication, a legit publication, and it's indicating that this school shooting is only the 5th in history in which a female, a woman, was the shooter. In most cases, well, I mean, when you see it on the news, it's almost always a man.
And so the why you know, 28 years old, lives in the Nashville area. Police confirmed she used to go to this school.
Had a connection?
What in the world would have prompted that to go into that school? You go in through the side door, she had.
And had intent because you brought two weapons, two rifles with you, assault style, and a handgun. So you came here with the intent to do harm. It's not like, well, I just spur of the moment thing. No, no, no. You came here armed and then entered with these weapons on your person, strapped to you in some capacity.
Well, and you know that, gosh, you know, you think about the impact as we talk about it, you know, and the numbers and the details and, you know, the news releases and whatnot. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we have six families in Nashville that they don't have.
Their lives will never be the same.
They don't have their babies or their wives or their husbands or their moms or their dads. 3 children, 3 adults, and you know, you don't get that back. And then for all the children and the teachers and the staff and everybody connected, you know, you look at how this kind of event branches out beyond just the victims, right? And you think about how deeply this impacts families, and yes, for everybody who survived today, who will have to work through emotional, psychological, or physical trauma. You know, many of them for the rest of their lives after what happened at 10:13 this morning. We're currently, it's 3:08. We are coming up on 5 hours since the first calls came out to Metro Police, and they sent 5 officers into the school immediately upon getting there. They ran toward the gunshots to try to take out the shooter, and they did.
There is also going to be a candlelight vigil tonight, and I'm just looking at a full screen graphic. I'm sure it will be one of many, but a candlelight prayer vigil Tuesday, so not tonight, but tomorrow night, March 28th, 6:30 at the City Clock Center, and it says everyone is welcome. I think there is another. We're receiving, you know, reports of these things via social media, and I'm sure you guys will see them as well.
You mentioned Belmont. Is that what you were talking about?
This is a different one, and I'm looking for the one at Belmont as well.
All right, here, I've got the Belmont.
You see that one?
Yes,
okay.
So Belmont University, just within the last 40 minutes or so, said, we're heartbroken at the shooting that happened at the Covenant School. Our prayers are with our city and every member of our Belmont community who is connected to this school and its home church, Covenant Presbyterian. So we're learning now of a direct connection between Belmont University and the Covenant School and Covenant Presbyterian Church. So University Ministries.
This is Belmont United Methodist that you're talking about, right?
This is Belmont University.
Okay, there is a Belmont United Methodist that's having a vigil tonight.
Okay. Yeah, this one. So at Belmont University, for those of you who are connected or interested, University Ministries at Belmont University will be holding a service of prayer and lament at the Bell Tower at 4 o'clock. Now that's coming up in 40 minutes.
And that's right there on the Belmont University campus.
So if you are someone who maybe you're watching or listening right now and you feel helpless.
And you say that's 40 minutes?
And you think I could be there in 40 minutes. I just personally would encourage you to go. Go, and if that in your way is a way in which you can process this, or maybe in some way pray for or help these families, go for it. Again, 4 o'clock, the Bell Tower at Belmont University. Anybody
on the campus right there.
Yeah, right there on the
As a crow flies, not too terribly far from this.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true, in the same general part of town.
And then at 6:30 tonight, Belmont United Methodist Church, 2007 Ackland Avenue, and just saying all are welcome, a candlelight vigil sanctuary. President Joe Biden, we referenced him. He has called this shooting the worst nightmare for these families. Says this morning's shooting once again putting gun reform in the spotlight. He says it's time that we do something to protect our schools. Joe Biden speaking.
We have to do more to stop gun violence. It's ripping our communities apart, ripping the soul of this nation, ripping at the very soul of the nation.
President Joe Biden calling on Congress to pass an assault weapons ban to prevent, in his words, another senseless attack on our children. But we do not know if an assault weapon was used in this particular shooting, only that it was an assault-style weapon. She had 2 rifles and a handgun, but assault style just means they look like those. It doesn't mean that it was an automatic weapon.